What's up, guys? My name is Con, and we're back today with more Gearblocks. And in the last episode, I worked on some really basic tank tracks, which sucked. So I took all your suggestions and comments, and I made this system here. And honestly, I'm like really happy with how this works. So a lot of you guys were saying in the suggestions that I had a lot of issues with the way I sort of engineered my tank. For the record, in case any of you guys didn't see that video, I can show you really quick what it was. You can kind of tell right off the bat, we've come a long way from version 1 to version 2. So obviously, right off the bat, you can tell the chain link has changed. This is a bike chain, and that's a tank tread. There's a difference. This is a bike chain. Also, this uses pistons to keep the tension on the wheels, to keep the chains tight, whereas this uses suspension. But of course, none of that matters. We're just going to delete this. Let's go drive this for about 10 seconds, and then we're going to talk about how it works. So right off the bat, it's a monster. Like, it's actually amazing. We can actually, for this one as well, you can hear it, it's kind of clanky. Of course, we can go and turn off that continuous collision, go to off. And actually, this one I have noticed, it will occasionally have a little bit of burst of lag if you have it on continuous collisions. I think the treads are a little bit more advanced, there's more parts to them, and obviously there's a lot more stuff happening. But you see, if we turn it off continuous collisions, it's actually amazing. There are a little bit of issues. You can see there's that one little, it's like sometimes the tread likes to sort of be a little floppy along the top there. It's not like a huge deal. I don't know why it happens. We'll talk about it. I went through a lot of different designs to get to this one, to be honest. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what would work. And I think the biggest issue, honestly, is the driving cog that drives the tank tread. But the beautiful thing now is our tank treads are 100% driven with an actual like cog sort of system that actually stabs into the tread itself, and so we get like perfect grip. Like, see, we can even do crazy stuff like this, right? Like, it's insane. Obviously, we need some more weight on this tank a little bit, but yeah, it's pretty gnarly and it's pretty amazing. Like, look at this. It doesn't even care. It's got so much power, and we're not even, and of course we can do full, yeah. And the one thing you might notice too is my tracks haven't fallen off, and there's no guides for them. Isn't that just amazing? It's kind of cool. Anyway, let's talk about how this works, because this is like the coolest thing. I literally built this like last night, and then it was like super late at night when I finished it, and then I was like super excited. I just drove around for like a half hour. But yeah, it's pretty gnarly. I can't believe this thing works as well as it does. Anyway, we're gonna talk about it. Let's talk about how tank tracks work. Really cool stuff. Got a lot of suggestions from the comments. Right off the bat, the first suggestion was obviously you got to get rid of this design, right? They're not symmetrical tracks. Half the tracks are single link, half of them are double link. This is basically a bike chain, not even a tank track design. So the first thing I did is I was talking with a buddy of mine, and we were looking at it, and we looked at basically this design is what we came up with. We were just sort of drawing pictures back and forth on Discord and talking about how, like, what would be a proper tank track design for Gearblocks, and we sort of came up with this. Let's remove that block. We came up with this design here. Actually, even more so. We pretty much just came up with this. This is what we were thinking of. We were like, all right, let's make these flat plates into gear teeth, right? You've got a little loop here at the back, you got a loop here at the front, and obviously if you attach this to this, each piece is identical, so we're no longer doing like, every second piece is identical. Now every tank track is identical, which makes it obviously a little bit better. And then of course this can, just rotate around, no problem, 5 long pieces. And then we just put this piece on top to give it some grip. And this piece on bottom is our actual like drive gear, which also helps align it. You can see it's only 3 wide instead of 5 wide. And so I actually use alignment wheels on either side of this to keep it in the middle. And then of course we drive that with a cog. So I tried this for a bunch, and long story short, we'll look at the designs that use this. But I ran into issues with the cog mesh, and we can take a look at that. So you see I went through a lot of different test tracks. These were the first 2 terrible ones. And then we went through, these test tracks. So this is that 5 link design right here. This is that 5 width design using a 4 cog. You can see, so the way I built these cogs is kind of simple, actually. So what I did essentially is I looked at the marble machine that the dev had made. I got a few comments that pointed it out, and they were like, Con, you're trying to build tank tracks, but the dev kind of already did it, which is a very valid point. If you look at this ball conveyor, that's normally in like the start menu, it's got like a tank track system. A lot of people in the comments were like, Con, why are you trying to reinvent the wheel? The dev already showed that there's a way to do it with cogs. So anyway, that's what this is, right? So you can see here, we've got a little cog system in here. You can see it's lined up right in the middle of all those teeth. And the idea being that once, we drop the chain on it, this will grip on these teeth and spin the whole thing around. And then these 2 gears on the outside, you'll notice they're actually just slightly larger than this cog. They don't look larger, but they are once this sits down. And anyway, those 2 gears, what they do is they sort of are actually the alignment. You can see once this drops, you'll notice, see there, the little indented pieces go inside the gear teeth, and then they actually won't be able to get out. So I was gonna do it with wheels originally, and you'll notice on like the bottom here, these are guide wheels, but there's no 1 block wide wheels that are big enough to do this, right? Like if we look through the wheel sections, as soon as you start to get into, you know, bigger radius wheels like 8s and stuff, they get to be really, really wide. So it wouldn't really, you know, there's a 1x8 motorcycle wheel, and even that's like, technically it's like 1.5 blocks wide. So it just wouldn't work. Anyway, long story short, let's take a look at some designs. So there's that design, obviously. That was one of the first designs I came up with. Test Track 4, this is again the same deal, but instead of a 4-pin, like instead of 4 pins on the cog, there's 5, because the dev did give us these adapter plates, right? And then of course I have one more where there's 3, because he gave us an adapter plate for 5, he gave us an adapter plate for 3, and of course we can build a 4 with a plus. Now, of course, you're gonna be like, well, Con, why does all this matter? Like, why are you telling all this? We just wanna watch you drive a tank. Fair enough, that makes total sense. The reason why is really simple. If we look at this cog and we try and drive it, what ends up happening is that you can kind of see it happening there. See how the teeth don't always line up? See how that one's getting caught like on top of the cog? See, that's not good, right? Like that tooth needs to line up with the cog, not be sitting on it, you can see. And so what happens is you end up with the track slipping, right? And that happens with this version, so like that's the 4 version. So then I was like, all right, let's try the 5, same thing. You can see with the 5, it's getting caught. See, some of those teeth get caught on the cog. And again, this is just understanding the ratio between the track dimension and the radius of the cog. And I had a lot of people comment on this in the comments, and they were saying that I really need to have like as big of a cog as possible with as small of a track link as possible. Ideally, you want just a massive radius that your individual track links have to go across. And that makes sense because, you know, your track links are straight pieces, and we're trying to make them go around a curve. And if you want to make a straight piece go around a curve, you need a lot of very, very small straight pieces to make it seem like it's a curve, right? So that's sort of, you know, makes sense to me. And again, it's just trying to maximize the cog size. Now, these are 7 large gears. The biggest we could go on the gears is 9. If we wanted to go bigger than that, we would have to make an alignment piece. I guess we could have made an alignment piece just out of like a rounded 1 block wide cylinder, right? We could have made our own wheels, I guess, like this. Can I do? Yeah, like see, that's a 1 block wide cylinder now, and we could have turned that into an alignment wheel. You know, there's a 9 block. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Future problems. Long story short, all that got scrapped. So after we did all that, then I went to, you know, like I said, I spent way too long working on this. Normally I like to like do a little bit of building in videos, and like this was just one of those projects where I was just going, and I was like, man, I gotta figure it out, because there's so many little like nuances to getting it to work. And then on top of that, it's all just about balance, right? It's about getting everything perfect. So long story short, I just dropped that part. But after I went through all these 5 designs and tried different cog lengths, I even tried 5 design with a bigger wheel. Is that Test Track 6? Yeah, Test Track 6. So this is that 5 design again, but again, this is a 9 block wheel instead of a 7 block wheel. And you can see the same problem, right? You can see that the teeth don't settle. They don't settle into the cog, right? It's got a very weak motor, that's why it's not really rolling, and I made this chain kind of longer than the others. But yeah, you can see it doesn't want to settle, right? So obviously this is all just terrible, not gonna work. So my only thought after doing all this, and I went through all this different stuff, and I said, you know what? It's gotta be the size of the chain link is wrong. Maybe the comments are right, and maybe I have too long of a straight section trying to go around too, you know, small of a curve, right? And I either need like a huge like 11, 12, 13 block circle to push these 5 block pieces around, or what if we made the gear tooth 4 blocks long, right? And the reason I did it 4 blocks instead of 3 is if you look at how these are manufactured. So if you see here, this is the 5 block system, right? Each link is 5 blocks long, and you can see when we get to the corners, we have to build this as a square because, you know, when you unfreeze it, that's when it'll actually, you know, flop around. But otherwise, you have to build it as this square. And if we made these any shorter, like if we make them 4 blocks long, then all of a sudden this like piece here gets shoved up there, right? Which is fine because it still doesn't interfere with this piece. But if we made it 3 blocks long, then this little gear tooth and this gear tooth on the corner would have to actually be inside of each other. So we'd have to like completely redesign the gear teeth system. So that's why I went with 4 blocks. I was like, you know what, 4 blocks, that'll be fine, and it'll work great. And then, of course, you know, saving you guys a whole lot of trouble, I did a whole more series of tests, and I ended up with this design, which is 4 block tread using a 4 block cog. And if we look at a 4 block tread with a 4 block cog, you can see it's actually pretty freaking smooth. You can see sometimes just the very edge of the gear tooth gets caught on the cog, like just the very edge of it, but it always slides down. And my thought on that was, that's not going to matter because this track technically is not under tension. This track is only under tension due to its own weight from all the steel links on the track itself. But, you know, other than that, we're not actually spring loading the track. And I figured once you spring load this and apply it with a little bit more tension, that little bit of slip is going to stop happening. But you can see, like, this took me, I'm not even joking, this took hours to find this combo. It's all about geometry, right? And the thing with Gearblocks is we're building everything with freaking individual tiny little beams and parts, right? So trying to get the geometry in a block-based grid to work perfectly like this is insane. Anyway, I've been monologuing far too long, but yeah, long story short, 4 block teeth with a 4 block gear, and we end up with this system. So I was super happy. Once I went through, like I said, like I've gone through, look at this. These are all, I know they all look the same, but they're all very different. It's either a different cog, a different diameter, slightly different gear tooth. You know, there's all different things. Anyway, I did all that, and then I came up with this design. Let's delete some of these before we destroy the universe. Perfect. But I came up with this design, of course. So once I, oh my God, there's so many of them. Yeah, let's just, thank you. Let's just get rid of that and that. Perfect. I love the fact, by the way, that the scaffolding block lets us just, you know, build as many tank treads as we want. And you can see they all just attach, and it's wonderful. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So I built this. So this is that same design with the 4 cog in the back, right? We are driving it from the back. And then we've got these road wheels, and a lot of people said I should put suspension on the road wheels, which is actually great because that's what gives us that wonderful track profile, where we were just a little too low to the ground here. Let's just, there we go. But yeah, this gives us that wonderful track profile, right? When you've got those road wheels, they push down. So they all start compressed, right? Like fully compressed, and then as soon as they deploy, they push out, and that gives the tension on the track. And then again, same thing in the front here. Rather than using a piston, a lot of people in the comments suggested using a suspension piece. And just because the suspension piece not only like applies an instantaneous tension as soon as we spawn this, so we don't have to worry about like deploying the pistons or anything, it also, you know, sort of regulates that tension, right? If it gets too tight, it'll just compress the suspension back. Whereas if we have a piston, it might not necessarily do that. So really, really, again, great suggestions all around. But like I said, this is that 4 cog piece on the back, and we're under tension on the front. And you can see if we just, you know, we rev it up, it's literally just, it's just a track. It's so good how well this works, right? And then across the top, I ran into this issue. I wasn't sure how to fix it, but obviously if you look at the top, the track sags, right? So if we don't have some sort of a guide rail across the top or something, the track will sag down. And I was actually finding that these gear teeth on the track were getting caught on these axles that hold the suspension. So I'm not sure if this is how like a real tank would do it. To me, it feels like this is sort of, you know, not really great because obviously you would sort of wear down that guide track a lot. Like in my opinion, I think these guide rails would just get disintegrated. I'm not sure if real tanks use another series of like road guide wheels across the top. They probably do, right? Like another series of wheels like this that are just strung along the top. But anyway, you can see how this works. It's super cool. And like I said, the guide wheels are awesome. We only have a wheel on either side. We've got a little, you see there's like an axle, right? So the wheels just ride on either side of the teeth. The whole thing just moves along. And yeah, it's great. I love that. So anyway, let's go get in. Oh my God, has this one been driving too? Oh, it's just been the one wheel. Amazing, because I have the controls set to be the same thing. So anyway, then of course I took that and just duplicated it and put the controls to the same thing I had before. So T, Y, and G and H. So, you know, if I go Y and T, we go forward. If I go G, it'll rotate that left track backwards or sometimes just lock it up. Because, yeah, there we go. Still have the issue where the cog, if the cog's on the front, it doesn't like to drive as well as if the cog's on the back. Which is kind of interesting. But like I said, just phenomenally functional tank. Like it needs some weight, obviously, and we're gonna have to beef up the suspension when we add some weight. And you know, we're gonna have to do a lot of work to it, and ultimately it needs to actually get some like tank stuff on it. Yeah, a lot of you are probably wondering about the speed too. I've found like we can try it right now, but right now I've got these motors set to 300 RPM. We can go up to 5, and the track on the guide just gets a little bit worse. The track on the road wheels is okay, which is makes me think that, you know, someone in the comments is going to tell me that I need to put road wheels along the top too. But you can see the track along the guide at the top just kind of gets all floppy when you go faster. And it sort of skitters. Like it's kind of, see that? I'm not sure if that's because my track design is bad and I still have a little bit of like interference on the cog or something, or if it's just because, you know, we're building freaking like 100-part tracks. But either way, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'm gonna obviously decrease this back down to 300. I think it's a little bit better as a slower tank, and maybe we'll change that. And obviously the next step is gonna be gearing this thing with a proper, you know, gear system, differential, tank drive, whatever. But it's kind of cool. Like, we've got 2 tracks now. They both are driven by a single axle at the back there. I obviously have to clean them up. These are like, the framing on these is, you know, really hollow. The only thing I want to do with these tracks is just figure out if there's a way to improve that top bit. And maybe it is just roller wheels, because it seems like it just gets caught randomly. Like, look, see, like, it doesn't even get caught at like the back where the cog is. It seems like it just like it hits somewhere in the middle. It's like the physics of it sliding isn't always cooperative or something. But I mean, it's super cool. This thing it's great. And like, you know, it's got so much torque. This is the coolest part to me. It's like, you can tell it's a tank because I can do this and I can balance it, right? And it's just, oh, we can just flip back up. See, like it's actually a tank. Like, we're actually moving the treads. You know what I mean? And they're like a physical object. It's so cool to me how this works. Anyway, and I made the treads out of steel, right? Because, you know, it's a tank. It's gotta have steel treads. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I mean, I was super excited. I spent so long. I'm not even joking. Like, I know it's a big jump from the last set of tank tracks we had. I agree. But I spent a lot of time going through it and reading all your comments. A lot of great people gave me great suggestions on tanks. And I still, there were a lot of comments that said, hey man, you should go look up like what real tank tracks look like. And I was like, nah, bro, I'm not going to do that. So I didn't look up how real tank tracks work, because that would be cool and that would make sense. But me and my buddy, again, we were just chatting about it, and we came up with this design, and I thought it was a great design, just a matter of tweaking it. And I don't think this is the ideal design. I feel like we could do a little bit more tweaking. It's all about the track, right? You have to figure out the perfect ratio of track to cog, and if you can get that, the whole thing works perfect. So maybe there's a different track to cog ratio, like maybe there's a 3-wide track I could build or something that would fit on the cog better, and I just gotta figure out some way to deal with the gear teeth colliding and all that. But yeah, it's just super cool, and it's super capable. And I just want to build more tanks now. Like, I mean, really, it's just, I got to build like a half track too, like a vehicle that's got tracks to push it forward and then steering on the front. Oh, that would be so cool. We could build some APCs and stuff. I obviously can take this tank track design and make it any wider I want, no problem. Like, we could make this 10 blocks wide and it wouldn't care. It would use the same cog system. You know, we could make the guides wider and all that. But I'm not sure about how long this will get before the system sort of implodes from the fact that it's too heavy to move all this. But I mean, you can see it's just so capable. It is a little light. We don't have any weight in the front. You can see we're kind of riding on the toilet at the back, but I mean, it's nuts. I never thought when I was building this that this game would ever be able to, well, not this. I'm used to scrap mechanic. I know I say that a lot when we play Gearbox, and a lot of you are probably like, what the heck is scrap mechanic? If you look at my channel, you'll see what scrap mechanic is. It's basically like Gearblocks 1.0, but bad. And, you know, it's kind of awesome that we have a game now that lets us build, you know, multi-link tank track systems that don't lag. Like, I can't even explain to you how cool it is to be trying to off-road here with this multi-track tank system. And it's just so easy. Like, I'm just casually letting off the throttle on one of these tracks when I want to turn a little bit. We're just climbing the mountains, no problem. Like, it's no effort. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you hit those buttons down low. Give me other suggestions for things you'd like to see in Gearblocks. I mean, we've got tank tracks now. It's pretty good. Now we need to work on tank transmissions, get a better transmission system going than what I had. Ideally, something that, you know, responds to WASD controls. So when we do WASD, it'll just drive the tank around. But yeah, we got to get that going. And then of course, you know, oh my God, look at this. And then we got to figure out if we can make a weapon, not like a weapon, like a projectile launcher. You know, I feel like we've got pistons, so there's got to be a way that we could make like a little projectile launcher that just uses the pistons and maybe just can catapult something out of a barrel or something like that. I haven't really thought about it. I haven't really looked into it, but we do have scaffolding blocks, right? So we can, I'm just trying to get up here without flipping. There we go. But yeah, we do have scaffolding blocks, so we could make like a one-shot projectile that might work. Maybe we could make something with a loader, an auto loader as well, if we really get to that point. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Make sure you hit those buttons. And as always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll see y'all next time. All right, let's go over there now. This is so good. I love this tank. Oh, no, 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 no. Okay.